Had the music go on a second time there. Hello, welcome everyone to the Jankyard. This is something new with your host Ninja
Hello.
and the colorful flavor co-host The Treatment. Welcome back. We skipped last week. We were both busy, but this is a continuation of whatever this is.
We need a cool, catchy name for it.
yeah, something new until we get a better name.
Ash talk.
Yeah, there you go.
Needs workshopped.
We'll workshop it. And so today, we're going to talk about the most hated card in the game. Completely broken, overpowered card that's been printed the entire collection of Ashes. It is Silver Paladin. I think the only thing you might hate more is Realm Walker. But everyone I've been talking to on the side in the last few weeks is just like, this card is too good. So let's talk about it.
I think what makes this card so good is the fact that its floor is very, very low, and then its ceiling is obviously very high, like other powerful cards. So Realm Walker is a card I really famously hate, and its ceiling is ridiculous. You can open with a Realm Walker, exhaust your opponent's units, and keep refreshing your Realm Walker, and your opponent can do very little. But it's got 3 health, and with the Golden Veil chain that prevents you from protecting it in round 1, it's weak. It's weak to a lot of things. Though it's weak to Molten Gold, which is banned. So maybe there's a possibility for more Realm Walker action. But the point is, the Silver Paladin, it comes in, it can potentially take out just a little guy that you've got, or maybe you combo it with something and you get super high value. But the floor is really low. It's hard to deal with the Paladin, in my opinion, without spending a lot of resources. There's no nasty, easy counter. So even if your Paladin isn't getting that much value, it seems like a pretty good card nonetheless.
Yeah, there's virtually no downside to it. I mean, there's almost always a one lifer or 0 lifer in every deck, just because of the way 10 dice tends to work. Playing your first 5, you tend to have something like that. So no matter what, it's getting its value on entry, and then the buff is just cherry on top. Being able to buff other units as well as itself is really nice, and then it synergizes with all these various refreshes. I think when I played Alfred in One and Done, he was running Brian's deck, which was Jericho, and he blinked it one time, and then another time he did a Scald to toss the Paladin to blow up my knight, and then Shepherd of Lost Souls it back, and then play it to blow up something else. And it was just like, this is brutal. Like, you have to have 3 Festers and a bunch of other stuff just to lock it down. Unless you're playing Fallen, the other worst card in the game. Yeah, so you want to build for counter anti-Paladin stuff this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I thought I'd do is I'd build a Paladin deck. There's a couple of different decks, but I thought, what if I built like a ridiculous all-in Paladin deck?
Should I get over to like Ashes Live, or are we just going to talk about your thing?
Yeah, jump on Ashes Live. I'm going to share a link with you here for you to follow to a snapshot of a deck that I just made with the Silver Paladin. And the thought process is, okay, if this is the deck that's all in on Paladin, just how do you counter it best? So it's funny we're discussing Paladin just after the One and Done, because the One and Done did see a final. Now, it was a slightly funky format because so both players didn't have access to a full collection for their decks. But that being said, they were pretty good looking decks. They were in the finals for a reason, and those were the decks they'd chosen of the One and Done decks to pick for the finals. So they were definitely probably like the most powerful decks that they had in that tournament. So yeah, and we saw Silver Paladin with Killer Cactus. It looked like that was going really well at the start, but the Fallen pressure just too much with the Daemona's Dragon aggro as well, to take out a heavy paladin uh, opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
You commentated that game. What's your perspective on Silver Paladin from watching how that outcome of that? What looked like a close game to me.
I mean, arguably, the ability to mass swarm 3 units for 1 dice is one of the few counters to that deck.
Hmm.
The other, you'd have to otherwise really ignore it. But yeah, putting out minimal value and using 10 dice worth of units versus 2 to 3, units on the board per round is, I think, the main thing. Um, Generally, there's stuff to back up the paladin in those other ways. Carl famously runs Royal Charm and then Ruby Cobra, so that it both synergizes with the paladin, but also you have that pressure for the little one lifers. And
Hmm.
then Fork Lightning. Every set prints its own answers in theory. Fork Lightning has been the main one. I haven't seen a lot of Nature's Wrath, or sorry, I'm talking now Counter Fallen. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, but for Paladin, Regress Paladin is like its own count. It's its own counter, right? That you sort of wait it out.
Yeah.
Um, Ping Fester is a classic, and then I haven't seen anybody really trying to do this, but was it Steady Gaze? That's a
Yeah.
card I think trading and getting 2 rounds worth of value is probably one of the best answers, and I'm interested to see now with the illusion set picking up, if that will be a more common, even one of, in the deck. But yeah, it's a good card. Funny enough, I always struggle with it. Like I've lost, I think, 3 matches or 4 matches running it, and it's just running it
Okay.
into the wrong thing. So I think I lost to Brian when he was on a mill deck, and that's sort of similar to
Gotcha.
the weenie fallen, right, where you just can't keep up
You
with the
ignore it, basically.
efficiencies, and you ignore it. And unless you have standstill or something to really get those punches across, you're gonna get eaten up. Who else did I lose to?
Hmm.
I think I lost to Shadowfire on a James Swarm deck, and that was more like all in round one, hit you for 10 with widows and light swordsmen and just a
Big
bunch of
aggro.
things. Didn't care about the paladin, and then finish with burn, fire archers, and sympathy, pain, and final cry, and there's no race potential there. So those are some of the things I've seen, if not hard removal. Um, but those are also
Have
in
you
themselves very
actually?
polarized decks.
So you go extreme potentially. From your experience, you go extreme in the other direction of the paladin. The paladin's one big giant guy,
Yeah,
and you could go all in on lots of little people. The paladin can kill one thing per turn, but uh, that or per round rather, but that's not necessarily going to win the game. I actually played Mill against, I want to say, Brian in a tournament recently, and it wasn't all in mill, and that was maybe my problem. It was like my Saria mill, so it had Raven that then
mm-hmm.
just got eaten up by the paladin. So maybe if I'd been playing a little more all in on mill, I would have a better chance of just ignoring the paladin, which I did in that game and lost because the paladin proved too much of a threat to ignore.
Yeah. I wonder too, if like, because there's always going to be this rock paper scissors type of thing, but if you were to overload 3/2s, Ruined Dweller or Griffin,
Mhm.
those types of things, and then the value is a lot harder to extract from Paladin unless they're specifically using Regress, because they can't just Royal Charm it and kill it.
Yeah.
And of course, unless they are also running ice traps, you have that value to not only put counter pressure for the race, but also actually put enough pressure. Like two of those 3/2s can threaten to kill it, which is
Totally.
something that virtually nothing else can do, right? and for cheaper than playing your own knights. Uh, and then there's exhaust tech. I think if you're playing Neil or Harold with a Sonic or Realm Walker, and you can Echo Realm Walker, where you can guarantee exhaust the other thing, so it's the only viable target is to exhaust the Paladin, and you just keep it out of play. That's something too. But the real problem is, especially first round, is the game of chicken. It's really hard to not play out your cards and allow them to get value, and then still use up your dice in a slightly more efficient way that they're not going to carry over to the next round. That's a trick to, I think, playing versus Paladin. Even when you know what's coming, even when they play Glory Paladin round one, you're like, okay, now what am I going to do?
If you follow that link on Discord, let's get specific.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about what an opening with a paladin looks like, and then like what a first five could potentially be that counters it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to think about, okay, so if there's all-in strategies that are a really nice matchup for paladin, is there any way that a kind of standard battlefield-based deck can tech for paladin? That's really the holy grail, is the, oh, I've got these cards, and if I think they're going to play paladin, or I think they're going to play regress paladin, I can swap out these moves and punish their predictability with a deck that otherwise isn't specifically built to take down paladin. So there's almost
Yeah.
like two different ways of countering something.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Um,
So I have it open. I don't know if you
okay,
have
cool.
YouTube open as well to follow along. It is really bright. I don't know how to lower my brightness
Yeah,
specifically.
every
for
time I bring up my screen, it just like whites out my
Flash.
face as
Yeah.
well. Flashbang.
Who needs a ring light? I just got to open a Ashes live. All right, so we've got
Absolutely.
Royal Charm and Shimmerwing as the mainstays in Odette. Okay, so explain and then three of everything.
So the three of everything is just I'm lazy deck building. But the first five is so the idea, first of all, you have the Royal Charm, which we need a charm dice on. So we can play the Summon Wishing Wing to get that charm dice on it, or we can just play something with a basic to get the charm dice, because we've got one that we can med up.
Yeah.
So we always get the charm dice on. Then we've got like this ridiculous double silver paladin first five. So we've got the glory aspirant brings us the first silver paladin, and the other one we just start in hand. And then the last card is our regress, and that is our ridiculous all-in first five silver paladin. So the idea is
So
they play.
just let me simplify this. The idea to counter Paladin is to play two of your own Paladins.
No, this is the deck we need to work out how to counter. This is the ridiculous. This is the test. This is like, can we beat this?
Sure. Okay.
So if you play something that has 2 health, then you can Royal Charm Silver Paladin, and now you're hopefully up on dice. If they play something that is a knight, then that's really great because you get to regress Paladin. If they just play out a 1/1 or something, then you can just play out your first Silver Paladin to not fall too far behind on the dice.
Okay.
And then you can take them out with the second Silver Paladin when they feel safe from the regress, even though they aren't safe at all.
Okay. Very interesting.
So
yeah, that puts a lot of pressure down, and of course you have Enter the Fray, which can wipe out some things. Interesting. Okay. So this is what we have to build against. I got it.
So first of all, we could think about the first thing you said, which is, okay, we just have a whole bunch of 1/1, a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of characters that are your friends to die for you. You could have, you lose 2 to both of the Silver Paladins, but they're all so little attack that your opponent doesn't get use really out of either the Royal Charm or the regress.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
No, the reason I really like Odette and the reason a lot of people are running specifically Odette Silver Paladin is because you can still regress something without using the Silver Paladin and then use it with Odette's her ability to enter the fray something. So your opponent plays that 3-2, you put regress on it and then use enter the fray and take it out without Odette taking any damage. So there's like a backup plan for using regress.
Right. Sorry, my I dropped the. There we go. I dropped the screen for a second. Yeah, Hmm. I'm just trying to think. Like, is there a Phoenixborn that lends itself better to Paladin, or is it really more about just the composition of like the first five options? Like,
Hmm.
is there an actual Phoenixborn that gives an edge up against any Paladin deck? I don't know, Fiona, Mind Maze, because they're
Let's have a look
sinking.
at Mind Maze.
They sink more dice and a card into you having to remove it. Otherwise, they lose the unit. Um,
Yeah.
what else? I mean, James has the ability to spawn more weenies and tutor more things. As like you could sort of like if you're starting glory and then you tutor another glory and then you tutor another, like you can tutor two light swordsmen, that type of constant pressure.
Yep.
And then Astria is, I think, a valid option against any potential even paladin deck because you either wait for them and you exhaust it, or you they don't play it, they play other things and they play too wide, and then you could judgment the board, or you allows your own time to set up. And then Odette itself or herself, Sword of Virtue is always a any like Odette, Jessa, and who else has a single hard removal? Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because Tsunami Shot doesn't quite do it,
Isn't quite enough, and neither is Final
which normally
Stand.
does. Yeah.
Um, but Cole, I mean, Cole slash Fester, as opposed to running another like having to do a ping Fester, which wastes a die, is always
Yeah.
another option.
It's quite hard to fit the Ping Fester, I find, into the first five, though you can do like Abundance Call or something like that. But it
He can
having
just
that first
shimmy,
card. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Shimmerwing, always a good one.
or if you don't want to do the sort of that standard type of thing, nobody plays Swifty enough, and that's always a
Or
nice
just the card
answer to
draw.
multiple things. And then um, I like with the low health Fiona and Cole, and also due to their abilities, I like generosity a lot because you have the chance to both tank a hit and then later on heal and draw. So yeah, I don't know. It's just thoughts.
The other thought I have about this is if we want to play, let's say, a knight for 3 dice and we're playing the game of chicken, we
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that we can play every single other card in our first five before playing the knight. Because if we do that, then we've got 3 dice for our knight it's the end of the round. We've got 3 dice ready for our knight to go, and our opponent has silver paladin and regress. This is something that's has been discussed before on Discord. So your opponent has to either commit to playing the regress, or sorry, commit to playing the paladin before you play the knight, which means that they can't kill it basically.
Yeah.
Um, or they sit on the 5 dice and then you both pass and you're up 2 dice on round one.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up a second. So we have the Odette here as reference, and then I'm gonna bring up
Cool.
a second one so we can build something. I just
So
need
we
to.
could potentially look at running like a defensive knight or a knight that is very happy to be played late in the round.
What do you? What kind of like? You mean like a Crypt Guardian?
Well, yeah, a Crypt Guardian would be interesting, or just a knight that isn't part of an aggressive play, like something that you don't mind holding in your hand for round two. So some of the classic knights, I'm thinking of Hammer Knight or Sonic, because those knights are so generically useful that you don't
Mm-hmm.
mind sitting and waiting. It's less about the knight and more about the strategy that you don't need to go on the aggressive necessarily with a knight early.
Right. Okay. Oops. I'm just trying to set this up. So, you direct. What do you want to start with? Are we starting with a Phoenix Born?
Yeah, okay. Let's think about, okay, what's the potentially okay, there's two things we could do. We could go, what's the widest we can go so that whenever Odette plays the Silver Paladin, we care the least about losing one of our units. That probably looks like James for extra spawn of extra allies that we can pull from our deck. Or it looks like Tristan for some sort of ridiculous aggro burn, or Demona, because the Demona Fallen is the version that we've seen work specifically against Paladin.
Yes, that is true. But I mean, I don't. I think that's a it's a very specific build
Yeah.
as opposed to something that I feel is a little bit more flexible.
The other
Um,
option is we take a deck that already exists and we have a look at it and we
mhm.
go, what can we do to try and tech this deck against Odette? And see if there's a way that we don't have to create like an entire strategy, anti Odette strategy, but rather we can. I think it would be fun and interesting to try that.
Okay, sure. I like both of those ideas. So you point me to where we're going. I'm
Okay.
just
So,
fiddling.
let's have a look at competitive decks or decks that have you got a deck that you've been playing recently, or do you want me to provide a deck as well?
You should probably provide. I haven't played honestly in more than one or two
Gotcha.
matches in the last few weeks. Just been a little busy.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a deck. I'm gonna find my deck that got um absolutely plastered. Let's have a look. By Odette. Um it's my Rin deck.
I don't know.
So maybe this will be interesting, or maybe it will not. Let's have a look. Where is it? Okay, here it is here. So I'll post it in chat and then you can pick Discord.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Oh no, you shared the mine link. You got to share the.
Oh, rats. Okay, yeah. Whoops. Let's try that again. So this is a deck with lots of summons. So this is perhaps perfect food for Odette because there is a 2 cost unit. There is a 3 cost for the potential regress. So we might have to change like fundamentally what this deck actually is before
Mm-hmm.
it has even a chance against Odette. But I'm curious, like, is there something we can look at here to change something about how it works?
So I like. Well, I like that it has the Cloudburst Griffin because that was one of the things I mentioned.
Yep.
Uh, Shattering Fist and Adaptodon, I think, is just a really good combo. That's in theory, if you consider it 4 damage,
Mm-hmm.
which could take out if you can get 1 damage from anything else. If you get you have no allies, which is something that we should fix just for that purpose. Um, but Clashing Tempers is interesting. I think just really maybe like 1 or 2 allies, especially with all these alteration spells. My mind immediately goes to like Squirrel. Yes, it's gonna bait out the Paladin because it's an easy target, but
Mm-hmm.
then it gives you the potential for one of these other cards that could be useful for taking down or at least threatening the paladin. I mean, a wallop on Cloudburst Griffin basically does it. And it also gives
That's
Rin
true.
a sec. Like if they ice trap the Adaptodon, it gives you a second um, non ice. What's it called? Ice buff alteration to use. I love root armor against Tristan, by the way. So yeah,
Yeah. So
there's like all the good stuff, but I think it's just missing a couple allies. Also,
the
here's a
prob
question:
yeah,
Is
go ahead.
Frostback Bear too slow these days? I don't know. Fred thinks so.
Possibly. A weird thing you could do to slot something in is put in Ice Golem and go classic Rin, because it's the same 3 dice in round one. And the newest version of this deck, definitely, I'm considering putting both the bear and the Ice Golem in and picking which one I want to first five. In case, like, if I see no nature on the other side, I'll maybe just go with the Ice Golem. Honestly, with for a spell book that a spell board that has an entirety of 9 dice costs.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The problem with this deck versus Odette is, what do you summon first? Because whatever you summon first, there's an answer Odette has. If you
Mm-hmm.
summon the Adaptodon, then Odette will Royal Charm the Adaptodon or just use Enter the Fray on Adaptodon. If you summon the Cloudburst Griffin, then she can play Regress and then just Enter the Fray the Griffin, or she can Regress Paladin the Griffin. And you're stuck in this situation where all of these, what would be great value propositions, like the bear, the lioness, the Adaptodon, suddenly become really terrible value propositions.
I yeah yeah. I mean, Bear is a really bad value proposition. Losing a 3 dice unit, I'd almost
Yep.
rather play the Griffin early, and then if they enter the fray for 3 damage, it's like okay. Um, but if they regress Paladin, I think that's probably the
Mm-hmm.
best case scenario. I think I'd hate to lose it to enter the fray more so than I would to regress Paladin, because that's 5 dice for
They
Griffin
spent their 5 dice.
versus
Yep.
2. So I think that's probably the best situation. And then you still have Linus because they think, oh, well, I'm still going to have guard. And if you can buff that up with Wallet, for instance, then you're okay. Um, I wonder into this particular Odette, like, are you even starting a 4 book? Or are you,
Possibly not.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
But
is
a good,
Adaptodon
I
just
like your
always
thinking.
bad? I don't know here.
Maybe.
Or is,
We
at
could.
least Adaptodon has ping.
It does, so it gets a ping as after it enters.
Mm.
The whole Adaptodon Shattering Fist combo, I think Fred was doing it first, and maybe you were part of the deck building process for that, actually.
Yeah.
Um, and it was super powerful, but it is super predictable at this point because it's so specific. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, how do you get this insane Shattering Fist value, the 3 damage from Shattering Fist, the 2 pings from the Adaptodon, and if you don't get to do that, which you probably won't because your opponent will do everything to stop it from happening now because they're aware about it, then what do you do as your backup, and how do you actually get that value back? So maybe you're right. So maybe I think our first point is definitely swapping out the bear, and we could go with your idea of overloading 3/2. So we could put Ruin Dweller in there, or we could put. I guess that is the other 3/2 summon. Um,
Um, yeah, I was just trying to think of the ordering too. Yeah, I'd probably get rid of the bear, and then I would play Adaptodon early, and
mm,
then if they enter the fray, yes, you're losing 2 dice of value and potentially the ping, but you've baited out the enter the fray so that when you play Cloudburst or Dweller, they have no choice but to regress Paladin, which
yep.
is then 5 more, the guaranteed 5 dice expenditure. So it's 5 versus 4 dice spent. And
This is
I,
the floor of Paladin, right?
yeah.
Because they just spent one dice for a 3/5 ally with no other ability, and so it's like, um, you're still in trouble in that situation. I think.
Yes. That's the thing, is that you're never not in a great spot with these books.
Yeah. So maybe the whole. Do you think the deck is doomed with the hypotheticals?
With this spread, or at least the composition, it is going to have a rough time. Uh, if they do a double paladin, I don't know how, like, what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you need at
You
least a
could ping Fest or something, so that's 2 dice straight into the 3 dice Paladin. I think it's all about the target, though, right? Because what we're identifying here is the fact that no matter what happens after, if you summon an Adaptodon and then they enter the fray, that's just awful for you as a value proposition.
Mhm.
Similarly, if you summon the Cloudburst Griffin and then they regress Paladin, it is 2 dice to 5 dice, so they just spent 3 dice, but that's still pretty good floor of 3 dice on a Paladin bot, like a big knight body. Um, so I think it's all about the target. You present all of these targets that aren't good value, basically.
I think it's also about order, right? We talked briefly about the fact
Yeah,
that
the sequencing.
you your opponent has 4 dice that they need to reserve. You know
Yeah,
that, to play this paladin. And so if you are on a 4 book, the best thing you can do is play all 4 books. And so they know what you have, fine. But then you just pass.
yeah,
And all they have is a Shimmerwing to play, to put down, and the Royal Charm. And then they
that's
have to
right.
do something. And all of their choices, other than the Paladin, let you use the Adaptodon to get value. So if they play Glory and
Mhm.
get another Paladin or a Light Swordsman, it's like, okay, well, then I can at least Adaptodon ping, and I'm getting something out of it before Enter the Fray.
Yeah.
And then you need the answer for the paladin after. But if they're not going to play the paladin, or they're going to delay it as long as possible, then you just sit there and you pass, and you're like, okay, fine, I now have played my first 5, and I just get to either draw 5 new cards, and then we go from there, or you have to play one of your units first, and I'll at least get something.
You're
um,
definitely onto something there. I think in this case, if they play the Shimmer Wing, you've got all your books out. I'm not sure I would be that upset about that as the adept player, so you maybe are still okay. If you play the Glory Aspirant for sure, you then ping it. Let's see. So they spent 1 dice on their aspirant, then you spend 2 um on your the Adaptodon, and then they enter the fray. I feel like you're still very happy as the Odette player to go up a dice, to go up 1 dice on that trade.
yeah, I guess the question
But
is, do you, when you play the Adaptodon against their Shimmerwing, are you
yeah,
playing the ice adaptation to put yourself out of range of the enter the fray, so that they can't use it right away, and get free value, and then you exhaust the Shimmerwing,
mhm,
but you present the Silver Paladin a better target? Or do you
yeah,
fire? Do you ping the Shimmerwing? It's still alive. You haven't killed it off. They still have a target for enter the fray or charm paladin. Like, no matter what, they have those options.
I think what we need is to have, like, we can have the juicy target for the paladin, but we can basically only have one that we play after we play other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
after they play the paladin, and we're happy to pass without playing that. So if the paladin is 4 dice, that can be any combination of 3 dice stuff. It could be like our Cloudburst Griffin and another thing, that we just hold back in reserve, and that's what happened in the one and done final, I think, where the Silver Paladin eventually was played on like a one cost, a one attack little ally or something like that.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that's right or not, but it sounds right. And maybe we can have our Adaptodon, but we have just a bunch of other one cost stuff that we spam out first, or
Yeah,
something along those lines.
yeah, and then we can't forget Ice Buff, right? Ice Buff does push
Yep,
you out of range of enter the fray, and so you can use that to protect the Griffin, or at least
totally.
force their hand on a specific play. If they use it on the Griffin, then at least you know you're going to have the Lioness later. You know, like those types of decisions. It's tricky no matter what. I definitely feel like it's a frustrating start, but the trick to winning would definitely be getting value over end. I just don't see you matching up against 15 allies on 4 books that most of them are going to get nuked.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Um, cool. Let's have a look at a completely different deck and see what that looks like into Silver Paladin for a moment. What if we play classic Astria Burn, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's still it's got the
Do you want your list or my
potential
list?
for judgment. I don't mind, honestly. Let's look at your list. I'm curious. It'll be more interesting to look at your list, I think.
I'll just bring up my Gen Con list, um, since that's
Nice.
really, I think, the only Astria Burn I have. Oh, my browser is chugging along today. Nice. Oh, or maybe it's Ash's Live is going slow. All right. Let's pull up. Okay, Ode to Ninja. I think that was. Just want to see if I have any. I do have Preparation H was a burn deck. I think that was, yeah, that not burn. Pain in the ass. No, that's not burn. Most of these are exhaustion decks. Backstabbing Chucky's sort of burn. Yeah, okay. So let's just go with the one Ode to Ninja. Suiting. All right. So this, yeah, this was my Gen Con deck, and built it specifically because you said Astria was great and Burn was great. It wasn't dead, so I was like, yes, let's do it, and did all right, third place, only losing to the other two Odettes, coincidentally.
Okay,
Or I
okay.
mean, they got first and second. I didn't play either of Matt or Killer, but my only loss was to Brian on Leo, and that was because I got flustered. I got the shakes in front of Brian, and I just completely missed my first five. But otherwise, it's a solid, I
Gotcha.
think, deck. We've got the Chant of Transfusion as sort of an alternate, but the Chant of Revenge is part of the burn package. Ruined Dweller, 3 Fire Archers, the Final Cries and Sympathy Pains, and then there's just control options. Sunshield Sentry was my answer for Dragon.
Okay, yeah.
Same with Beast Tamer, like trying to see what I would play first. And then Farewell was my answer for, um, well, Creepers or anything like that. And the rest is just, I think, good stuff.
Wow, Sunshield Sentry is such a good pick for anti-dragon. I don't. Did you play that matchup? Because
It was my
that
first match,
seems
actually, against Kyle.
okay.
He was using Brian's Dragon deck, and uh, he made a couple of misplays, uh,
Mhm.
but I think the like, and I won. But the theory I think was still solid, where it just presents an awful sort of decision to stop their momentum, because
Yeah.
it immediately stops the, at the time, what was the Empyrean Dragon Swing synergy, where they swing both at the same time, and then Empyrean gets to pick who's going to block, and Sentry just immediately sends one back and tanks the hit from presumably the Empyrean. Easy. But the other thing with Astria is that if they slow play it and they put the Empyrean down at any time, you just exhaust it, and then
Hmm.
their dragon is not going to do anything against the sentry, and you still have the option then of killing off the either the dragon like with ruined dweller or anything else. And so that was a nice pick. And Mark of the Goddess was what you had suggested, and that came into play I think once or twice. Again, this was I think a misplay, but he put down dragon early in a second or third round, and I just smacked him. I don't think I smacked him in the face. I think I used like an existing Empyrean mount to kill off the dragon right away, which was great value. So yeah,
That's awesome. The Mark of the Goddess just surprises people. People like think it's trash and they don't even see it coming, and they think, oh, they're so scared of judgment they don't even consider it. I love the Mark of the Goddess plays.
Judgment is one of those cards that's like having, what was it? Charlotte told me, she's like, and this is what I guess Matt told her: never put three particle shields in a deck. You have two, like never more than two, because as soon as you bin one and you've played another, they never know if their ability to ping something is safe. And it's a similar thing to like
Hmm.
if you only ever have two golden veils,
They'll
your
never see the
opponent
third
is
in the discard.
always worried about that third. Is like, can I play this big move now or I lose if they have a veil? And judgment is sort of like that. Anything they want to put down, they're never sure. Like, man, if he judgments the board, I'm done. And if I play
Yeah.
something big, then I just get beguiled. Is that, I always forget the names of things. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
beguiled. So it's really nice to have the 2-1 split. They see two judgments and they're like, oh, does he still have the third? And then you whack him with Mark of the Goddess, and it's like, oh, take 3 to the face.
I ran this list and I post judgment and I just didn't put judgment in my deck at all.
Yeah.
And I think it was Brian was still playing around the judgment, and then they never, Brian doesn't never sees it in the discard, and they think, oh my goodness, it's coming. But that's probably a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that. You should put at least one copy of Judgment in there.
Yeah, one is
For
good.
sure. For sure. Yeah, it's a good card. I'm not sure if it works as a first five. Did you find that Judgment like could actually work for a first five? Did you play it in a first five?
So the only match that I absolutely should have played it first 5, which I didn't, was the match against Brian. And it was
Right. Okay.
and he played Paladin, and he was on Royal Charm Paladin Leo Mill deck, and he even was like, "Well, I don't know, just if you have it, you have it." And he puts the Paladin down, kills off my Shimmerwing, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Of course!" Like I got into my head too much about the first 5 mind games, and I knew that he was running like whatever it was, 6 or 7 divine. I was like, "Of course he has it. He's been playing it for
Mhm.
the last few weeks. It's the unit." And I out mind gamed myself. And then to make matters
Yeah.
worse, I picked a first 5 where I couldn't even spend all my dice. So I think I only managed to play
Oof.
8 or 9 dice, and I was just like, "This is worst case scenario."
I've
uh,
definitely had games like that
yeah,
for sure.
pick a first
Yeah.
5 and
We've all
just
been
go with
there.
it. Don't second guess yourself. Is the lesson there.
Definitely.
But yeah, I played it twice, I think, in my first 5. Charlotte, she played her Echo Realmwalker, I think it was or Odette deck against me, and the whole time she was like just playing around Judgment, and I didn't start it in my first 5, and then she was so irritated because she had gone off plan. I think to do like a double night start that would have crushed me, but she didn't.
Mm.
And all of a sudden she was like, wait, you didn't actually play it? And then that made it worse, because then round 2 and round 3 she knew that there were, well, she thought there were 3 in deck, and so now you have to play every other round as if your opponent has the judgment. So yeah, it's quite the. It makes your opponents definitely play off kilter.
Oh, Kyle's in chat saying he played right into Judgment for
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. One, he forgot about it, and I think he had two Empyreans, a dragon, a light swordsman, a glory. His board was like full, and I got 10 or 12 dice of value out of a judgment. Um, and that's when he was like, I forgot. I should not have played so aggressively. Um, but he learned his lesson, and he bounced back to I think fourth place or fifth place finish. So
Nice.
there you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so yeah, I think this could handle the Odette. The threat of Astria, Beguile plus
Yeah.
Judgment is enough to really put them on the back foot, and then Dweller cannot easily be killed without the uh, regress Paladin move, which just sort of
So let's
plays in.
say you know that they are playing you know their first five, they are playing Regress, they are playing the double Silver Paladin and the Royal Charm.
Mm-hmm.
um I don't think that they can summon. I think the idea was I overloaded this spell, this so much that they can't actually afford. Yeah, because it's silver four for the Silver Paladin, then five for the Glory Aspirant plus Silver Paladin. So they
Mm-hmm.
can only either so Shimmerwing or Regress. But they can get the charm dice, but just spending one of their basics on a charm,
Mm-hmm.
um, on a charmed power dice, regardless.
Yeah.
So you know that's their first five. What do you do in this situation? You play
I play Shimmerwing
Ritualist.
first.
You play
Definitely.
Shimmerwing first.
Yeah, I put the book down first, because the draw will also dictate
Mhm.
some of how your round goes, and how if they want to be aggressive and put down a paladin right away just to take out a Shimmerwing, it's like okay,
Yeah.
but it's unlikely that they will. So no matter what, you're generating your own value if you choose to pass out the round. And then
Okay.
you go into the ritualist. The other reason, and I screw this up all the time, meditate before you play your ritualist. The number of
Oh,
times
totally.
I've played my ritualist turn one because I had two ceremonial dice, but then I had to meditate up later, and I meditate one of the chants. I'm like, I could have just picked it up from the discard. It's such an easy mistake to make. So yeah, I would play it that way. The book, and then ritualist, and then probably the wing, and see what comes into play. Also, if they're going to play glory at any point to fetch, say, a light
Yep.
swordsman or whatever, you wait until, like, you can play the ritualist later. So then it's not only a blocker, but it gives you more information as to what they're doing.
Yep.
Um, the only question is, what do you actually first five? Because there's a lot of
Mm.
options, and you know you could you could play two shadows, you could play judgment and just go for value. You could play anything else. I think you play like the Beast Tamer or Sunshield. You're offering up too much value. So really, you want one of those things to be removal, and that's another reason why you want to draw earlier to see what your options are. Excuse me.
So you could run Sunshield knowing that you're only ever going to play that after they play the paladin. Now we know that the double paladin is coming, so we're just presuming that the
Right.
the double paladin trick doesn't work, and we're like, I'm not falling for that. I'm waiting for the second. You've only got one card. It has to. How you've got so many dice. What's going on? You're gonna have to
Mm-hmm.
play paladin here. Um, so you could still run Sunshield Sentry and just wait for the end in the same way that you wait for Judgment, right? So you only Judgment once they play the Paladin. If they don't play the Paladin, you just sit on Judgment. They're down four dice. You're down two. Very happy to pass in a slow burn Astria.
Yeah.
Similarly, maybe you can play the Sun Shield Sentry now. So if you do play the Sun Shield Sentry here after they've bopped your stuff, right? So they regress, kill the Ruin Dweller, they kill your Shimmerwing with the other Paladin, and they've got these two Paladins. You can beguile one of them, and then the other one has a Sun's Shield Sentry. Is that good?
No, I don't think so because it's it's not enough counter pressure. So against that type
Yeah.
of deck, I would be more inclined to do like Chant of Transfusion, Dweller, Shimmerwing, and then Old Salt, maybe even. Um,
Hmm.
you can pick up the Chant of Revenges later, right? You're not going to burn Odette immediately, but what you can do is immediately get rid of Shimmerwing or any other one lifer that they're going to play. And it also, with the Chant of Transfusion, because something's going to die, like your rituals or something, um,
Hmm.
you can force them to play the paladin on it, and it's a little bit less value, but hopefully you're at least killing off something of theirs. And then they can't enter the fray it, which is good to kill it, so they have to use the paladin, and then you
Yeah.
can hopefully play the dweller at a spot where like then you still have beguile and the dweller to start your burn, but also to threaten um, the race. And I think that's probably how I would approach it. I mean, Blood Archer is
Hmm.
another option if you are really able to bait out the regress early. But I
Does the
don't think
Silver
you
Paladin
can.
not just trade into those things? Yeah, like so the best case scenario is you play out your Shimmer Wing and they just go for it with the Paladin, but they're probably just going to enter fray the Shimmer Wing.
Yeah.
If you play they'll let's say you go Ritualist, Transfusion, and then they just immediately Paladin. So that's one Paladin used up. Then the problem is that if you're gonna have to lead with something next or pass. You can beguile the paladin, but then you're gonna have to play the you can't play the old salt at that point because they'll royal charm kill the old salt,
Hmm.
or they will if you play the ruin dweller, they can just enter the fray, the ruin dweller, or regress, kill the ruin dweller. I'm not sure what the second play is after you trade your ritualist into the paladin.
Well, like I said, you definitely want to play the Shimmerwing book, the Dweller book, and the Ritualist to get your
Yep.
chant, whatever whichever chant you choose, down early. So that's at
Hmm.
least three
Yeah.
turns. You're going to summon the Shimmerwing for sure because there's no reason not to. So it's 4 turns against their 2 or 3 at most. They play Royal Charm, Shimmy, Glory,
Yep.
right? So you
Well,
then can
they can only do one of those actually. They either have the glory or the shimmer wing.
right. So they
Oh,
you but they
oh
play
sorry,
at least
no. They either never
they
mind.
play they
No
play
nonsense.
those 3 things, assuming that that that's the path they want to go on, and then you just pass, and you've got your books down,
Yeah,
and you've got a shimmer wing to draw whatever you started farewell or not farewell judgment, so you
yeah.
have the extra card for it, and then you just sit and
So starting judgment, I think, is a big deal here
yeah.
because if they don't play out, so they're going to play out the glory aspirant for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I misspoke there. It's either regress or shimmer. So
Right.
they're definitely going to have the glory aspirant. You're going to have ritualist. No, you're not going to necessarily have ritualist because that will make them play the paladin. So you just have your books.
I think
If
you
you play
play.
the rich,
I think you play the ritualist because you want to
oh, then they
tutor.
okay.
You want to tutor your chant of revenge,
Yep.
assuming right. Probably better than the transfusion for this matchup, and that's okay
Are you
because
happy then with the pass on the? You've got your chance. You've got two transfusion or one transfusion revenge, or you've just got a transfusion. They have a paladin and a glory aspirant on table.
I'm
That seems
happy.
good for Odette.
Yeah, like if they're gonna kill off your ritualist, giving you the chant token just to play a
Mm-hmm.
paladin,
Yep.
and then you can just Astria like beguile the paladin.
You
It's
can
like
begin.
okay, whatever, and then you play
Yep.
down, let's say your dweller. If they then choose to regress, kill
Yeah.
off the dweller, you judgment, and I'm happy with taking out 8 value of units for 2 in a card.
Yes.
And then you still have, let's see, you played Dwellers, that's 2, Shimmy's 3, Ritualist and Book is 4, Beguile is 5, uh, Judgment is 7. So you still have either, let's say, the Blood Archer or the Sentry in hand. Let's assume that you started and like that's what you wanted to go with.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's pretty good. It's all about the judgment then. It's you have to judgment first 5 because if you don't, and the moment they play this silver paladin on whatever it is that you played, they have so much value on board.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really the key here. So one potential is you play Astria, you first 5 judgment, and you just play stuff that they will paladin, and you are happy to judgment once they play their paladin. Like in that matchup you were talking about against the Leo, where it would have been nice to just they play paladin, you play judgment. In that case, you probably weren't guessing that there would be 2 paladins.
Probably not. Yeah.
And there probably weren't.
I
Oh look,
just
Fred's in chat. Nice.
Yeah, Fred's in chat. Hey Fred. I forgot that I actually modified that list to play, I think, in Phoenix League, or maybe it was no, I used it as my first week 1 and done against Redentor.
Mm-hmm.
The original third place list had a Crypt Guardian instead, and
Okay.
that's a good unit to play because then you have a lot of flexibility. If it dies, you can double exhaust something if you chose instead not to play, like if they were playing slow, for instance, and you could immediately exhaust or second exhaust a paladin or another knight or whatever. Like assuming you don't know what their list is, right? It just gives you a lot of flexibility. So that's what I had, and I took it out only because of the one and done matchup, and I wanted to do something else. I also tended to find I preferred in the current meta having Sentry instead. But yeah, that was something that I forgot about. But yeah, we got about 15 minutes left. I was wondering
Okay.
if there's any other deck or counter or thing, or do you actually want to build a deck from scratch as a counter to?
I think that will take a while. I think I'd like to
You got a
potentially
speed
next
round.
time
Gotta go boom,
with
boom, boom,
speed
boom.
round.
Speed round
Go.
deck builds.
You just play paladin as well. That's the end.
Yeah.
I think I'm really curious if anyone in chat has any tech ideas for anti paladin that they've been trying out, or I think Fester's interesting starting point for Cole if you just go all in on Cole. The Ping Fester is potentially 1 dice versus the Paladin, which is insanely good. Potential value. Again, the floor of Paladin means they eat something, so it's like, is it really 4 dice because they just kill one of your things that probably at least costs 1 dice, and then you play Fester, so maybe you're up by 1 dice. I'll take it. I'll take up by 1 dice every day against the Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on the judgment as a call that's very specific to Astria. So we are looking at like specific deck builds essentially, or at least specific Phoenixborn. And then in terms of like deck build overall, I'm not sure if we can play Big Book anymore. We had a look at my Big Book, my Timmy deck, which is quite fitting of all of these giant summons, and it just is like impossible to play that because the first thing you play is such a juicy target for Paladin, I think,
So
and therefore,
the counter, I just
yeah,
thought of this,
yeah,
is if you play either Big Book or whatever. We haven't talked about Shroud, but that is an option that, okay, you're going
that's right,
to ultimately let them kill it,
yeah,
but if you're able to extract value from that unit, especially if it's something like Cloudburst, so you stop them from playing Ice Trap, they can't play Regress
yeah,
Paladin, you swing, whether you're going for a race or going to take out one of their other targets and put pressure, you know, that is a potential, and it's going to synergize on subsequent rounds as well. It's not just a first 5 trick. you're going to always be able to get that 1 unit worth of value for free, or not for free. For I guess it costs one
Yeah.
dice initially, and then it's free. Yeah, yeah. It's so after round one, Shroud will always be there to protect that 1 unit, and I like it with. Well, actually, was this our deck? What did we? I forget what we built. Oh no, we built a
No, if
Symbolic
I was
deck.
involved in the deck building, it definitely didn't have Shroud in it. I think that
Yeah, no,
card's
this was
garbage.
this was Shadow Fire. I think I built 2 or 3 decks one night, and that was
Nice.
I think we yeah Shroud was in there twice. So
I really like the idea of Shroud as you describe it. The problem is you've already invested a dice in protecting something that just means you could be potentially further down the hole of being at a dice disadvantage. So if it,
yeah.
I'm ready to be proven wrong on the efficiency of Shroud. But I like the idea that, okay, if Shroud is just trying to prevent this really bad value proposition happening where you play something out and then it gets Silver Paladin, you can simply sequence your, as you were saying, it's all about the sequencing, it's all about the order. If you simply just play your unit out and you have a plan for whatever it is that you're going to summon, you summon it late after your opponent has spent at least 7 dice, so they can no longer play the paladin. That's basically the same as Shroud without it costing a dice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
why play Shroud when you can just sequence better,
I mean
basically?
it's part of it, but um, it's definitely
Unless
useful
you're,
on units you
yeah,
guarantee want to get value out of, like Creeper or
definitely.
having a big Mirror Spirit swing.
Yeah.
Something I think I've done once, but it was, and I just because I scrolled past this Leo deck with 6 charm, uh, five. It was crazy, but it was 5 charm farewell play on Paladin. Just
Okay.
get rid of it, lean into your the mill plan anyway, which
How did
was
that work out?
worked out, and it was fun. I mean, I think I already had somewhat of an advantage. It wasn't a round one play,
Nice.
but it was like, okay, well, go for it and blow the dice and just see where it goes. I mean, you're only down 1 die effectively, but you've milled them 5, which is a quarter of your deck. Like, by
Yeah.
round two anyway, it's a quarter of your deck, so it was good.
You're also down on whatever they killed, unless it was already exhausted. It probably
Yeah.
wasn't. So you're kind of down on 2 dice, I think, like practically speaking. But as you say, it's mill 5, so yeah, you could definitely convert that into a win with 2 dice for the mill, and then really importantly, you're just slowing the game right down, right? Which is probably in your plan. There's just less happening. They played a paladin, you destroyed it. That's like half of the dice in that round just got spent doing
Yeah.
nothing. Nothing happened.
I mean, yeah, it depends on your game plan, but it was fun. It was at least something. There's always
Mhm.
the paying faster, like Gilder Fester, do whatever type of thing. Herald, if you can get a 3 attacker on the board, then that paladin is guaranteed dead. With Mark, there's uh body inversion or acrobat. If you can
Yeah, that's an
either
interesting one.
swing and threaten it, if if they have their guard up, or it's guaranteed being able to kill it because it's got 3 life, and even with the divine buff, it doesn't matter, right? You just
So I
flip it and
wonder,
swing.
yeah, that's a really great point, and probably something I haven't thought of because it's new cards, which is, yeah, you turn it into 3 health. Surely we can work out a way to do that with a side action, and then we simply kill it with 3 damage. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Excavate still does 3 damage, even if Molten Gold is banned. And maybe there are other ways of dealing 3 damage in a first 5 that I just can't think of off the top of my head.
I've done it in James Crescendo because you can tutor card. Definitely, there's
Mhm.
Airedale, Gilder, or Odette with some sort of ping. Um,
We kind of need to flip the stats and then also do the damage. So I think our side
yeah,
action is taken up with, say, an acrobat attack.
it's a little trickier, yeah. But I mean,
Hang
there
on. What about the new
Not Shatter Pulse.
juggle?
Oh, actually, sorry. There's the Juggle, which is 3 dice. Shatter Pulse is a first five consideration, I think. If you just have a one of in your deck and you face four or
Yeah.
five divine, you start it, and no matter what, you're gaining advantage because they kill something cheap. Hopefully, you already
Yeah.
got value out of it. You instant kill their paladin, and then you also get to spin. I think it's spin any target dice, spin dice up or spin dice down on their side, or spin your own dice up. So it's. I
Yeah.
think that's an easy card that if you're playing sympathy, you should probably have a one of. And then Guilt Link is the other way I've played once or twice against. I want to say
Mm.
it's one of the Fritzes, Fritz Jr. I think he was playing it, and because they're playing Paladin, that's 4 dice. The other 6 dice have to be, or generally are, low value,
Yeah.
or low cost. So if you have enough sources of ping or ways to kill all the other things, then you can guarantee that the Guilt Link will land.
You could go for like Guilt Link Gilder. That's
Mhm.
like a pretty nice first five setup. I think Carl has a Creeper Koji list that's like Guilt Link, Creeper, and Gilder. Or I said Gilder twice. The sympathy or
Link,
the
Gilder, Creeper, yeah.
yeah. And then with the Guilt Link, yeah, you can take out the Paladin potentially after pinging stuff with the Gilder. Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's
had it
definitely a
in a
good show.
Tristan list, so Tsunami Shot kills off all the small stuff, and then it's a Fishton, so the Tetras will, because there's 3 of them, unless they wrath, you guarantee have a target, right, to kill your fish and then kill off their thing. It also baits
Body
out.
inversion tsunami shot could be a potential, or
Well, that's
sub
only
or like
3.
acrobat. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tsunami shot is usually just like not quite enough to kill off the paladin, but invert its stats with an acrobat or some other mechanism.
Mm-hmm. I think body inversion Tristan is actually pretty scary because it answers a lot, and that's
Yeah.
only it's only 3 dice. So
You could probably turn that body inversion into at least 1 damage with the tsunami shot again, unless everything your opponent has exactly the same life and attack. You're
mhm.
going to swap one thing and then play the tsunami shot to kill it for 1 fewer damage than you would otherwise require.
Well, you flip the paladin, you kill that for
Yeah.
3. You still have another ping going somewhere
Yeah.
else, and then in theory, like you could easily. Well, now I want to build this. You could build an illusion divine, so you also have your own paladin in there.
No, stop playing paladin.
Yeah, no,
We
no,
can't
no,
just have
that's the
paladin be
answer.
paladin.
Hey, you
There
can't
must be other cards. There are other
counter
cards.
value. This is what we have to have to work with next time. These are the
Nice.
answers. So yeah, so I guess we solved it.
We
But
did it.
yeah,
Boom. Solved.
Astria is the solution ultimately.
Yeah.
This Rin deck, the Rin deck you showed me, definitely would need some work. And then otherwise, Swarm. Yeah, Swarm seems to be good, but it's interesting. Normally, I feel more flexible in the, like, having a shell and flipping it through different Phoenix Spawn. Paladin almost feels like one of the cards similar to some strategies where the Phoenix Spawn that you choose gives a lot more um, advantage or disadvantage to the counter paladin plan.
Yeah.
It's a lot more impactful, I should say, in the overall scheme of things. Um,
It's because usually you either deal with two things, or sorry, you usually deal with one thing, which is like, oh, they're playing tall, they're playing a knight, so I need some kind of removal, like ping faster or farewell or something like that. But Paladin is actually two problems in one. It's the problem of the target that it can take out, and then it's also the problem of what it is after it enters play.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Lots of interesting things.
We did
We'll
it.
definitely have to build and play next time. This was the theory talk, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to pilot this crazy double paladin Odette and you build a counter, or if I build a counter, and then you play it.
We'll see. We'll see.
I'll
I
have
definitely
one
want
ready.
to lose while playing Paladin, so maybe that's the goal.
Yeah. Oh, again, body inversion, tsunami shot, shatter pulse is 6,
Yeah,
and then you could do whatever you want for the last 4 dice. You got another book
you got
spot.
your fish.
Yeah, you could do fish and anything, prowler, gates defender. You got a lot of stuff you could do. It'd be fun. Maybe I should try that. And
Sounds
inversion deals
interesting.
with all these O2s, which is not what you
Uh,
want to spend tsunami shot on. I'm building that tonight. I'm gonna crush this meta with my inverted Tristan.
we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
Then everyone runs Fate Reflection. I guess the Fate Reflection doesn't even help that much.
Nope. Only
No,
counters one even particle shield, right?
you just need that 3 damage,
3.
which is why I'm showing the number 4 with my hand.
Yeah, the 3. Have you ever seen what was it? Inglorious Bastards, where it's he orders 3 beers. Or actually he
Oh
orders 3 like
yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah.
and then they are like, you're not German,
Like,
because
yeah.
Germans order it like this, which is also this ASL, that's how you do 3 instead. Because that's, well, water W. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
so there you go. But
Nice.
this is definitely not 3 in any
Yeah.
language.
This is 3,
Gaelic?
obviously.
Yeah. Party on. All right.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you for another fun episode of just chatting. What Ash Talk is what we'll workshop that some more. You got to come up with this is your show, so you come up with the name.
All right. Okay.
All right.
I'll put up I'll make a mind map.
Yeah. Brainstorm, and yeah, well, I think next week is next week Thanksgiving for us. Maybe. I can't remember. One of the next few weeks will be off, but otherwise, yeah, we'll catch everyone again.
Okay.
Do you have your own sign off for your own show?
No, I do not. I just love being janky too much. I'm truly a jank player at heart, so I
Yeah.
feel at home here on the jank yard. I love playing those jank casual games. It's just Ashes is the kind of game where you, unless you're Red King, because he's some sort of strange magical being, you can't show up to competitive matches with the jank that I play. I'll just get trashed. So, yeah, got to
It's
play something pretty competitive.
it seems to be the issue that we all have is you start off playing jank because it's just so much fun, and then you get caught up in these tournaments or leagues just because they're what's available, and next thing you know, you're a dirty competitive player.
But the jank is still very important because
It's
that's
still
where you
there.
find your ridiculous broken combo.
Yeah,
Like, of course, our new jank combo, which might be competitive.
you never know.
Our Tristan body inversion. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll have to test it out and find out if it's the new answer. All right. So then you can sign off with whatever you want. Go for it.
Well, if you're not janky, you're stanky, obviously.
Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a great week. Ciao.